Hello again, you're tuning in to V News. Coming up next are top stories. Party General Secretary Nguyễn Phú Trọng praises journalists' contributions to national development. Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng joins roundtable meeting with Singaporean business people. Ministry proposes allocation of sugar import quotas. Party General Secretary Nguyễn Phú Trọng has praised the contributions made by Vietnam's revolutionary press to the national construction and defense. He attended the official session of the 10th Congress of the Vietnam Journalists Association on August 9th in Hanoi. In his speech, the leader said over the past 90 years, Vietnam's revolutionary press has always stood by the party and people's side during our struggles for national independence and socialism. He said journalists have also played a key role in encouraging the entire nation to carry out the party-initiated renewal policy in the last 3 decades. Vietnam has seen a vigorous growth in both quantity and quality of journalism personnel and products. The press has timely reflected all-round developments of the society and people's aspirations. The party, state and people have appreciated the press role in the revolutionary cause and supported its development, General Secretary Trọng said, asking for the sector's stronger attempts to fulfill their missions. The association's 10th Congress, held from August 7th in Hanoi, was attended by more than 500 journalists representing over 22,000 members of the association nationwide. Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng attended a roundtable workshop with leading Singaporean businesses in Singapore on August 9th on the occasion of celebrating the host's 50th anniversary of the Independence Day. Singaporean entrepreneurs described the event as a golden opportunity to explore the investment cooperation in Vietnam. The Vietnamese government noted that Singapore is among the leading economic partners of Vietnam, with two-way trade reaching nearly $10 billion last year. Singapore's investment into Vietnam has been increasing in recent years, with more than 1,400 valid projects worth over $33 billion. The Vietnam-Singapore Industrial Park is a vivid illustration for the sound and effective cooperation between the two countries. The Prime Minister continued that there remains enormous potential for economic cooperation between the two nations. He said his government will create favorable conditions for Singaporean firms to boost trade and investment activities in Vietnam in the long run. The Prime Minister welcomed Singaporean entrepreneurs to study investment cooperation or expand operation in Vietnam in the fields of logistics, real estate, restaurant, hotel, industrial park development, and maritime transport. The same day, Prime Minister Dũng received leaders of some top Singaporean businesses such as Sembcorp, Ascendas, Sabrina Holdings Limited, and Banyan Tree. On the sidelines of the ceremony to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Singapore's Independence Day, Prime Minister Dũng met with Prince Andrew, Duke of York. The two sides held that the Vietnam-UK strategic partnership is growing in a positive and comprehensive manner, especially in economics, trade and investment, and education. They expressed their belief in the future the two sides will expand and deepen cooperative ties in these areas. Prince Andrew spoke highly of cooperation in education between the two countries, expressing his wish for the continuation of a project to build an UK university in the Vietnamese city of Da Nang. The People's Committee of Ho Chi Minh City on August 9th held a ceremony to fly the ASEAN flag and mark 20 years of Vietnam's ASEAN membership and the group's 40th founding anniversary. The event drew the attendance of the city's leaders and representatives from ministries and agencies and embassies and consuls general of ASEAN member states. Speaking at the ceremony, Chairman of the Municipal People's Committee Lê Hoàng Quân highlighted Vietnam's active contribution to the development of the bloc over the past 20 years. Ho Chi Minh City has set up twin relationship with 6 localities of ASEAN countries, he said, adding that ASEAN countries have invested $15 billion in more than 1,100 projects in the city. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development has proposed to the Ministry of Industry and Trade that while allocating sugar import quotas, priority should be accorded to factories which imported raw sugar for refining amid an anticipated excess supply. The import quota partition assigned to local sugar firms are set to begin right in August since the sugarcane harvest season has ended. This year, Vietnam has to import 81,000 tons of sugar following its commitment made to the World Trade Organization, plus a 50,000-ton import commitment to Laos. Because Vietnam can import raw sugar and refined sugar to the quotas, the Agricultural Ministry said the import of raw sugar for refining would lead to creation of jobs locally, besides helping struggling domestic refineries to become viable and operate at full capacity. It also said raw sugar import for refining would also help monitor and control sugar supply and therefore lead to stabilization of domestic sugar prices. Prioritizing raw sugar and refinery production is also possible now as domestic refineries are able to meet the requirements, both in terms of quality and quantity, of factories that consume sugar, the ministry said. The Vietnam Automobile Manufacturers Association has reported that nearly 20,350 automobiles were sold in July, representing an increase of 9% from June and a rise of 61% against the same period last year. During the month, the association sold 11,647 passenger cars and 7,862 commercial vehicles, up by 19.2% and 0.4% respectively from June, while only 840 special-purpose vehicles were sold last month, down by 22.4%. The volume of complete knockdown vehicles rose by 4% monthly to 15,013 units in July, and the volume of complete built-up vehicles totaled 5,336 units, up by 26%. Among members of the association, Shanghai Auto led the way, selling 6,827 units last month, accounting for 37.6% of total sales. It was followed by Toyota Vietnam with 4,551 units and 25.7%. Ford Vietnam came third, far behind with 1,405 units, accounting for only 7.9% of sales. The Ministry of Industry and Trade reported the processing industry earned approximately $71.9 billion from exports in the first 7 months of 2015. More details in the following. The figure was up 18.7% from last year and contributing 77.9% of Vietnam's total export revenues. Products with export growth include cattle feed, plastics, footwear, and phones and components, among which the group of phones and components recorded the highest growth of 28.2%. Goods seeing dropping export earnings were seafood, rice, and iron and steel, and coffee. The ministry's report also revealed that the country shipped abroad $14.5 billion worth of goods in July, a 1.2% increase from the previous month and 10.8% against the same period last year. The figure has brought export revenue over the past 7 months to roughly $92.3 billion, up 9.5% year-on-year. Opportunities and challenges are an unavoidable part of economic integration. The Trans-Pacific Partnership is no exception. It poses severe competitive challenges for the Vietnamese economy, especially in terms of livestock breeding, automobile production, and food processing.
Based on the export strengths of the member states of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, an array of Vietnamese sectors will face difficulties, particularly the production of automobiles, beef, pork, and sugar. The production of food, alcohol, and other consumer products will be hit the hardest by the trade deal. In addition to the TPP, the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement will eradicate tariffs on almost all goods by 2015. Vietnamese livestock breeders will struggle to compete with meat products imported from countries throughout the region.
The Vietnamese livestock breeding sector will be one of the first to be affected by economic integration. We suggest the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and the government rapidly restructure the sector in response to the TPP and economic integration.
The automobile sector will also be affected by a number of challenges arising from the free trade agreements and economic integration. In particular, tariffs on automobiles will be eradicated in ASEAN member states in 2018. Toyota's intention to withdraw investments from the Vietnamese market signals potential difficulties for Vietnam's automobile sector.
Domestic automobile assemblers are facing difficulties. However, I believe the government will step in and apply macroeconomic measures to ensure the future of domestic automobile assemblers and protect the jobs of thousands of workers. I do not think we will shut down domestic automobile factories and rely entirely on imported vehicles.
Experts said the TPP will drive Vietnamese enterprises to vie with each other for business opportunities and improve product quality in order to compete with imported products.
Supervision and transparency are always highlighted in free trade agreements, thus contributing to the promotion and fair competition in the participating countries. Joining free trade agreements helps ensure fair competition. Domestic businesses have to address the challenges of free trade agreements, including the TPP. It is only fair that if we buy products from other countries without paying tariffs, that we in turn reduce the tariffs levied upon goods imported into Vietnam to 0%.
The TPP is expected to benefit Vietnam's garment and textiles industry, as well as its agricultural sector. Meanwhile, Vietnamese consumers will gain access to high-quality imports at reasonable prices on the domestic market. Under the TPP, low-quality Vietnamese products sold on the domestic market will suffer at the hand of the import quality standards applied on the regional market.
The event, Vietnamese Cultural Days in the U.S., has kicked off in Washington, D.C. to mark the 20th founding anniversary of Vietnam-U.S. diplomatic ties. The program put the first note to the opening ceremony, entailing a folk music performance and a traditional outside show. Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism Hoàng Tuấn Anh said the Cultural Days program is expected to help the U.S. people understand more about Vietnam, a beautiful, peaceful and hospitable nation which is home to 21 tangible and intangible World Cultural Heritage Sites recognized by UNESCO, he said. Deputy Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of State's Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs, Mara Tekak, said the progress in the Vietnam-U.S. relations, especially since they established diplomatic ties 20 years ago. She added that the Vietnamese community in the U.S. has been playing a significant role in promoting people-to-people exchange and cultural understanding between the two countries.
The costumes were really beautiful. They were just really well done and everything on stage. And I was really impressed by how many of the different performers were able to play so many different instruments. And there were a lot of things that I'd never seen or heard before.
And that has wrapped up our bulletin. Thank you for your attention. For more information, please log on to our website at www.vietnamplus.vn. We'll see you soon.